Tim, you've been right on the price of coal for a long time until recently when it suddenly bolted higher. Do you think it's sustainable? Is this a recovery? Is this cyclical, or is it still in structural decline?
I am absolutely certain that the seaborne thermal coal market is in structural decline, and the price rally that we've seen in the last 6 months, as you said, up 30-35% from its lows, needs to be in the context that it was $130. It's dropped by 50% from those lows to today's price. And what we are seeing is a dramatic change in the key import markets.
So what's going on? Why do you think it won't keep on bouncing? Is it China?
China is coal is China. China is half the world's coal production and half the world's coal consumption. So China drives.
So what's
everything.
going on there then to make it?
Well, we put out a paper, and Lord Stern has put out a paper along the same sort of lines, and we've seen from Professor Garneau the same sort of argument. Chinese coal consumption peaked in 2013. That was a dramatic change. After 12 years of 10% per annum growth, Chinese coal consumption declined in 13, peaked in 13, declined in 14, declined in 15, and it's declined again in 2016.
And that pace of decline is picking up?
Correct. The pace of decline is accelerating, and so in a year when the coal prices started to recover a little bit, you've got to put it in the context. Coal consumption is declining in China at an ever faster rate.
So it's realistic to think that unless miraculously somehow coal consumption in China suddenly picks up, that the structural decline will continue, and therefore the outlook for the price of thermal coal isn't good in the long run, is it?
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, every week we're seeing new policy initiatives from the Chinese government which are designed to spur the orderly decline of the Chinese coal market.
So this is principally moving to, the whole thrust of this is moving towards renewables, hydro and solar and wind and so on.
Correct. And we saw China announced in the first 6 months of this year, they've installed 20,000 megawatts of solar. Now, put that in context, that's 30% more than they installed in the whole of 2015, where 2015 was a world record high. So the policy initiatives in China are absolutely driving a transformation, a diversification of the grid away from coal towards everything else.
So how would you describe China's very active energy policy compared to Australia's energy policy?
It's chalk and cheese. It's like the Australian government's just ignoring what's happening up in China and saying it doesn't matter what our biggest trading partner's doing, we're just a price taker, and we're of course going to just produce more and more no matter what the price is. So to me, the phrase profitless prosperity is alive and kicking in the coal industry.
We're pushing down the price of our huge export too by opening up a whole lot of new coal mines when the price is already on its own.
So it's a bit like LNG. Let's absolutely squeeze all the profit out of the industry, export to our key customers as much volume as they can take, and probably 50% more than they can take, and drive the price down permanently. But going back to China, the price has actually recovered. So to come back to your point, what we've seen is coal production in China in the last 6 months is dropped at a rate twice the drop in consumption. So the Chinese government at the start of this year announced they were going to retrench 1.2 million Chinese coal miners. They were going to close 500 million tonnes of capacity. They did it. They announced that they were moving to a 5-day working week for all coal miners nationally after having worked 7 days a week for the last 10 years. So overnight, capacity has shrunk dramatically. Consumption is falling, but not as fast as the collapse in production, and imports are the swing factor. So the fact that consumption is only down 5% means you've had imports come in and fill a short-term temporary void as production's dropped 10%.
Right. And India, what's going on there? I mean, is the impact, they buy a lot of Australian coal?
Yeah, India is the second largest producer of coal, consumer coal, but it's the #1 importer of thermal coal. So what happens in India drives the world for coal at the moment. And we have seen India sign 20,000 megawatts of new solar contracts. And so Energy Minister Goyal is absolutely certain that he will cease thermal coal imports by the end of this decade by introducing a lot more domestic coal and a lot more solar.
Even though we're just about to build supposedly the world's biggest new thermal coal
Yep.
mine in the Galilee Basin, the Adani project, and so both parties are still committed to this project, aren't they? At least in name.
Well, certainly.
Is that going to happen? Is it going to happen?
Certainly, our new North Australia member Matt Canavan thinks Adani is going to proceed. I mean, he's ignoring the fact that Indian Energy Minister is saying they don't want our coal. They don't want our thermal coal. They've made it clear. He says it every month, just in case Australia's government's not listening. But India doesn't want our coal. They've made it clear. So,
but we're going to build it anyway to give it to them, even though they don't want it.
Oh, it's going to help end poverty in India, even though India is not going to use it. Yeah, it's ludicrous. It's a decision that relates, well, a decision that made sense 10 years ago. It makes absolutely no strategic sense today.
So there's no economic case, let alone environmental case for this mine, is there?
Well, no economic, no strategic, and no environmental logic for this mine.
There you go. The price of coal.
Thank you.